right, here we go. We have Eva Ismail on YouTube Conversations.
Hello, hello.
How you doing? So listen, I look forward to getting to know you. Appreciate your time on a Sunday, right? I'm sure you have a lot of things to do, but here you are with me. All right.
I know. Thank you for having me.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay. So let's get into it. So where was you brought up at?
So I was raised in Queens. I came to the United States, migrated here when I was 3 years old. So practically have been in Queens all my life. I'm currently still living in Queens. Grew up in Jackson Heights, which is a huge South Asian neighborhood community around a lot of diversity. So that's why I'm still in Queens. I can't leave the side of me.
And do you ever visit back home? Have you ever been back home?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Bangladesh. That's where my family's from. We used to go quite often. As a child, my parents tried to squeeze in summer vacations there. As an adult, I have a 4-year-old son. So since he's been born, I went back 2 or 3 times just for him to recognize his ethnicity and where his parents were brought up. Yeah, but then the pandemic hit, so we're trying to be safe about it. So we haven't traveled back to Bangladesh since.
So let me ask you, right? So in your culture, is normally is a single parent household the norm or being married?
Yeah. So honestly, it's not the norm. It's more of a taboo to be a single parent. I would say the millennial generation has kind of is trying to break that taboo. If your marriage isn't going to work, if your partnership's not going to work, there are single moms and dads now who are Bangladeshi American who are just like, nope, I will do this on my own. I will take care of my or children on my own. Yeah, within the South Asian community, it's all about like the family ties, and regardless of issues and stuff that happen within the family, you keep it quiet and you keep it moving.
So I'm curious to know because I grew up in Brooklyn, New York,
Yeah.
and I grew up in a single parent household, and the way it was in my community is that basically men are no good, right? That was my upbringing, right? Men are no
Hmm.
good. You hear my mom say men are no good. You hear my aunt say men are no good. The woman across the street, that was just the thing. Men are no good, but guess what? They're raising men at the same time, boys, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
in your culture, um the wives, are they kind of, or just the women, are men really respected, or so like in America where men are not as respected?
Right. You know, within the South Asian community, when you talk about like traditional men or like our uncles and fathers, there's so much of a tie of like they're aggressive. It's hard for them to show emotion. They're just trying to hustle and make sure they're bringing in money and feeding their children and taking care of their wives. So there is a side of all of the moms and aunts and grandmothers who will sit around and talk about like I'm going through these issues with my husband, with my sons and stuff like that. But it's never as blatant of like, you know what, men are no good. And within our community, it's we really do try our best to at least with the millennial generation, to be like, okay, well, if these men are trash, don't focus on these men. How do we bring up how do we create an upbringing and raise our children, the future men of our community, of our society, to not be similar and have a sensitive side and be able to be honest with what they're saying without sounding misogynistic or disrespectful. um, and also part of the South Asian community is, older generations. There's a huge divide between like the role of a man and the role of a woman. So within the millennial generation and the Gen Z generation, we're really trying to change that, which is like the woman can be the breadwinner. The woman can go out and work, and if the husband needs to, he should stay home and take care of the children. If I'm going to my in-laws' house, if my husband wants a plate of food, I it shouldn't be expected from me and for me to get it for him. He should be able to get his own food, and vice versa, serve me food. So,
Yeah, and I think one of the major issues when it comes to our generation in America is that a lot of the women that they have to work now, right? They're not just staying
yeah,
home. They have two incomes, right? But now what
it's
they
important.
it is important, but now they're a lot of them are claiming the reason why they're not cooking as they would before for the families because they're working. But I think they fail to realize that a lot of the, um, a lot of the old black leaders, as far as Martin Luther King's wife and all of them, they all work. There was no stay.
They all worked.
They all
They had
work, and
to
they.
work.
I mean, the only time you would see really a woman that will not work was like really like in the 1950s, 40s, and maybe
Yeah.
before that, but not in the inner cities. Everyone worked.
Mhm.
Everyone,
Mhm.
even kids worked, right? But
And
food was still cooked. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, also in the inner cities, the opportunities that were provided to specific communities, there was no privilege behind it. You know, you can come from a very gated community, and perhaps you had a mom that wasn't working, but she was also working at home because she was a stay-at-home mom. And speaking about the 50s and 60s, I mean, throughout our media and entertainment, so many of the sitcoms that came out in the 50s and 60s, it just showed a one person income household. The mother was working, and then the man was going to his corporate job or whatever job he had, bringing home the money to take care of the family. But not everyone had that privilege. I mean, I saw my mom um, start working since I was like 13. It's one of the reasons I have such a strong work ethic, because I saw both of my parents bust their behinds and go to work, wake up at 3 a.m., and come back 14 hours later. It was that's reality for a lot of us, for many, many generations.
So let me ask you, right? Because so both of your parents were working at a certain point, right? How was the household structured as far as family time, food preparation? Like, was your mom still cooking, or did
I mean, my mom is a queen. So I don't know how she had the time, but yeah, she would work a full-time job, and
it's like she created 27 hours in a day, right?
she created some high standards because I cannot cook for the life of me. I work a full-time job, and then I'm trying to do my acting thing on the side. So like I'll make you fried eggs and rice. That's what I tell my son. I don't know how to cook. She somehow had the time to cook up 3, 4 different types of curries and appetizers for us when she came back home after her 12-hour job. But the structure at home, honestly, from my childhood, what I remember most is on Sunday nights, my dad would bring home like pizza or just McDonald's, because my parents were so against fast food. So Sunday was our day that like my parents would treat us to, like, you know what, you want Burger King, McDonald's, share. And back then, ABC had a Sunday night special at 7 o'clock. They would basically host like Disney movies or something like that. So thinking about my childhood, that was my memory with my two sisters and my parents, just finally me craving my McDonald's and having it and watching, The Princess and the Frog because it was on TV.
Yeah. One thing I look at is that, I came from a very poor background, kind of really ghetto. I'm so glad that I cannot turn on the internet and see some of the ghetto things my parents were doing. Like now, a lot of the kids that are, they're kids, but when they get older, they're gonna be able to go on Instagram, YouTube, whatever
Yeah.
platform, and see the ratchet or craziness their parents were doing. And it's sad that the next generation of the elder grandmothers or the woman with wisdom is the Cardi B's, right?
I know, but I can't even knock on things like that because they're also hustling and they're making money for their family. But I
Yeah.
see what you're saying about like the the
Just
ratchetness.
in general, yeah, just like,
Yeah,
there's not going to be no more Thanksgiving home cooked meals. It's going to be TV dinners and
right. Yeah, but that's all about what you instill. I mean, in such a social media society as ours, everything we do, the first thing we think about is, oh, I got to put it up on Instagram, or let me record it for my TikTok. So everything has, but there's a sense of privacy that is still very much needed, right? Which unfortunately isn't there as much as we should. Kind of honor it as a society, but it's about what you decide to put out there. Like, you can have a minute of ratchetness that you put on an Instagram reel, but deep inside, maybe you probably have great familial the upbringing, and you want to continue that legacy for your future generations. So it's like, just be cognizant of what you put out on the internet, and I feel like it's our personal responsibility to be aware of that.
Yeah. So do you speak another language?
I do. I speak Bangla.
Bangla. Okay. One
Hmm.
thing I have a huge issue with is that a lot of us, especially the community I grew up in, we mostly speak one language and we can't even speak that effectively, you know. Um, how do you feel about that? Especially when social media, you see the celebrities, just people in general. How do you feel that people that are born here went through the educational system, just like you did, and but we're not able to use the English languages properly? Does that ever bother you? Pronouncing some words, it's like that's not how you say that.
Yeah, I'm not a speech therapist. I'm not a psychotherapist or a psychologist or someone who does research. But honestly, my thing is, I think, and without getting into politics too much,
Yeah.
our educational system, our justice system has really done many communities wrong.
Mm,
But growing up, the type of rhetoric that you become innate to, and stuff like that, if that is how you truly speak, that is how you truly speak. We should always try our best to enhance our rhetoric, enhance our vocabulary. I'm too busy looking at SAT words, and I was like, I studied that when I was 16. I can barely pronounce these words now or use it within the proper context. But like, we it does not bother me. More so, it's like, this is the way a person is. I should be able to communicate with that person, and vice versa. It shouldn't bother us, because that just creates more of a divide amongst our society. And just because someone speaks a certain way, like my parents have a very strong Bengali English accent. And when we go out to stores, sometimes some folks who were fully English speaking people, they seem like they're getting irritated or frustrated because my parents aren't able to communicate things in the proper way. But it's like, instead of getting frustrated, elaborate on your question, help each other.
yeah. No, I'm speaking of the people that were born here, like me, that's born here, raised here, fully grown adult, and cannot speak the only language you speak. Basically, what I'm saying is, I think us as I know we're from two different cultures, but
Hmm.
I believe it's very important for us to learn how to have like a sort of like a switch, right? I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
when you're home, you even if you speak English around your parents, your accent probably comes out very heavy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then when you go outside, when you go for your job, it's still different. What's
Yeah.
happening in a lot of urban communities, they're not, that switch is kind of fading. The way they talk around their friends is how they talk at work. And that's
Okay.
a problem. It's diminishing. Because our image is already tarnished already. So
Yeah.
I always try to talk to the youth and try to help them. But um, yeah, New York. So on a scale 1 to 10 in 2022, how do you rate New York City?
I think we need to do better for our city, especially being someone who is a true New Yorker. I've been here practically all my life. With the pandemic, and because of so many jobs lost and whatnot, the crime rate that's picked up so much. I mean, I'm a mom, so thinking about like my son, even as he's growing up, I'm like, I hope the city changes and does better. You know, um, it's nice to see diversity within our city government, but diversity is only going to do so much. We need to have leaders who are able to really come to all of our different neighborhoods and talk about, hey, what's going on in your neighborhood? What are the type of issues you're going through? Um, yeah, I'm really, I have hopes for this city. Again, I'm not like a city leader or anything like that, but I
Yeah.
truly have hopes for our city, because New Yorkers have always been resilient. I mean, we're the greatest city in the world, but I do worry. I worry. It's, like before the pandemic, I used to just be on the train at 11:30 p.m., midnight, just fine. And now, if I step into the train station after 7 p.m., I'm just like, should I have called an Uber to go home? I shouldn't
Mm,
feel that way in my own city, where I'm paying taxes to make sure the MTA is running properly. You
yeah.
know?
And now, even during the daytime, just 2 days ago, another woman was pushed on the train
Yeah,
tracks and she
at
died.
Times Square. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's becoming very common. That's always happened, but usually someone will slip and fall or just, trying to commit suicide, God forbid. But
right.
now it's just like very often. Now, someone I interviewed explained to me the reason why the rise in the mental health has increased. Now, first of all, not everyone has mental health. Some people are just evil. You can't blame mental health on
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Some
no,
people just pure evil. But
yeah,
what De Blasio has done is that he's closed down a lot of the mental institutions in New York City, right? So all these people that has mental issues, they was in the building doing something.
right.
So when you close all those facilities down, now what happens? They're all walking around New
There,
York City,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And I feel really bad for the elderly, the women and the elderly. They're being attacked viciously,
yeah. The vulnerable, right? Yeah.
viciously. And I think Eric Adams is going to do a great job.
Hmm.
As far as the crime, I hope so. It's just
I
sad
hope
that
so too. Yeah.
it's all put on him, but the only thing he's going to fail at is the mandates. He's strong with the mandates. People need to have freedom. You know,
Yeah, yeah, and especially in America, we
yeah,
honor our freedom. No one can tell us what to say, but we still need to take care of our community. If we're gonna ever combat this evil disease that keeps manipulating us by, a different variant coming out, we need to do better. But when it comes to just the mental health issue, I still think within our society it's a taboo,
yeah,
when you have mental health issues, and the more we need to talk about it more, because it is normal, it is okay when you have a mental health issue. You need, like, folks who have access to therapists definitely take advantage of that, but like our healthcare system too needs to support those patients who are unable to seek for help for their mental health crises. And we just need to do better as a society when it comes to that stuff. That's the only way we're going to be able to combat and support one another.
yeah. Mental health along with drugs, even marijuana, alcohol. The New York City subway has gotten so bad. See, have you been on the subway lately and someone was smoking? Have you
Yeah,
seen that?
yeah. I was with my 4-year-old and someone was smoking, and I'm just
You
like,
like
dude, you see me with my toddler.
now, this is the thing, okay? So this was happening. When you smell the smoke, it doesn't smell like weed or cigarettes, right? Does it?
Not all the
It's
time,
K2.
no. Yeah,
It's K2. So when I smell that, I'm like, okay, I gotta go to. So I'm not trying to have that. I don't
no.
want to be banging my head on the wall.
Right, because of all the toxins that enter your system.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of that is. So let me ask you, right? What was your biggest struggle growing up?
Honestly speaking, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment with two other sisters and a mom and a dad. Again, we were a struggling immigrant family. So having space and privacy, and really going back to the code switching and off, as soon as I left my house, I switched into, okay, the American side of me. As soon as I would enter those doors back into my family's apartment, I was switching my American side off to have my uh, a Bengali side on, where it was like, okay, now I'm going home and I have to act a certain way and be a traditional Bengali girl. I wouldn't also fit in school because I went to school with kids from other communities, but it was very hard to find someone who was also quit the code switching on and off, and being able to find someone who's able to relate to the issues that I was struggling with as a child.
So you growing up, because you're when you walk around and because you have two parents and so the people assume you as privileged.
Somewhat, sometimes, yeah. Actually, it's interesting that you asked that question, because when I was in the seventh grade, and I didn't know at the time that that specific person was going through a family was going through a divorce. And I remember just complaining something about my dad dropping me off to school, and like I have to go home and like just take out the chicken because my mom's coming home and cooking. And she looked at me and she was like, "Well, you're lucky to even have two parents." And I'm like, "Well, damn." you know and the older you get, and as an adult, you start to realize what it means to like not judge people and see things from their perspective. So it's funny now, like now that I'm thinking about it, it's like something that I'm going through might be, a struggle, heart crushing for me, but to the next person it might be like, you were so lucky to be in that situation.
Yeah, when you hear, sometimes because I suffer from depression, right? It's an
Right.
ongoing thing. And sometimes just thinking like, it just come out of nowhere. You're feeling bad, but then you hear about someone else's situation, or you're walking, you see someone homeless, it's like, man, I got both my legs, and I have my mind somewhat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well, I can do better. I may not have all these things, but what's stopping me from doing something today, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can only be your biggest fan and your biggest fighter. Everyone else will text you, call you, and say, "Hey, are you doing okay?" But in order for you to do okay, it's hard though, because I've experienced depression too, and one of the big reasons why I feel like I feel a bit more at peace with myself is because I stopped ignoring what was my passion and just concentrating on the arts a bit. But um, it's hard to pick yourself up sometimes, and especially with this pandemic, you just don't know what's going to happen the next day. But I will leave you with this though. A therapist of mine many years ago said, someone can be drowning in a bucket and someone else might be drowning in the ocean. Either way, they're both drowning and they're both suffering and struggling. So we can sit here and compare our lives to the next person, but that's not going to make our life any better, nor is that going to make the next person's life any better, you know?
Yeah, and speaking of that, I also learned to not look at someone if someone is saying that they're going through something, or and of course, there's times when people I look at them and say, what you're going through is not that big of a deal, but they're going through it.
Hmm.
Everyone, maybe there's something that I can handle, you can't handle, or maybe there's something
Hmm.
that I can't handle that you can. This is gonna really break me down, but it gives you can easily go through it. So depression is all the mind, right?
Yeah.
It's really just the mind, and sometimes you just need to get something to eat. You may be hungry.
Yeah. I know. I know. Or also like seasonal depression is such a thing,
Yeah.
like they said seasonal depression this year is going to be even worse because again, it's impacted by Omicron and like what's going on with COVID, and then just like the weather's crappy outside. So that's also a thing too. But yeah, we can't judge each other because like also the struggles that we have as adults, a good portion of the way we manage those struggles or overcome those challenges is based on how what our upbringing was. You know, so much of the trauma that we've gone through as children that still sticks within somewhere in our brain to be like, all right, okay, so as an adult, I'm gonna figure this out, this, and this way. Whereas someone else who was probably going through different things as a child is like, all right, I can combat this right away. Let's get this going. So
Yeah, and during the pandemic, after the year we was all trapped inside the house, I developed allergies.
yeah. Yeah, because you're not
I
being
have
exposed to like all these other toxins that are out in
And
the
I'm
air.
wondering, like, I have a dog, and I'm just wondering, like, why can't I breathe? Like, everything is, I've
Yeah.
never been allergic to anything. And then, I go outside and just like a few minutes, like maybe half an hour later, it clears all up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, let me go home and bleach and scrub everything. And it turns out I can't have a dog,
Oh
And
no.
so I had to start spending a lot of time outside, a lot of
Yeah.
time in the park, just being outside. It's gotten better, but I'm still like
Yeah.
kind of. So I just, I leave the dog with my mom now, and yeah, it's crazy. I have a Great Dane, so he's huge, like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my mom's like, I'm not walking him.
Yeah. Your mom's like, I've done enough taking care of you. Now I have to take care of your child.
Yeah. So, so you have a child, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
He's 4 years old.
All right. So 4 years old. So when you found out that you was pregnant, what was going through your
Yeah.
mind? The first moment you found out you was pregnant.
I, I'm just like, should I bite my lip for this one? I wasn't ready for it because, some women, are like, I would love a child, and for me, I wasn't. My husband and I were just not planning it. We weren't ready for it. So when it happened, we were like, well, life throws a lot of wrenches at you, so let's figure this one out together. I think it was a little easier for my husband and I, because we were married.
Yeah.
And within the South Asian culture, it's like you cannot have a child out of wedlock. Like you will be
Mm,
disowned. So, but for us to be married and get pregnant, it was like, sure, let's figure this out. But now that I am a mom, and ever since he was born, I mean, he's such a bright light. Everyone that knows him says like, your kid is just amazing. And he's also one of the reasons why he's kind of pushed me into ensuring that I can still be a mom and fulfill things in my life as an individual, in order to also show him the type of mom he had growing up, of someone who was able to practice peace and practice fulfillment for their own life, not just for the sake of their family.
Okay, so when your water broke, okay, when your water broke, did you know your water broke, or did you think what was going through?
I thought I had a pee. I thought it was born on July 4th, so it was July 4th morning. You know, July 4th, you're just like, we have like
Wow.
5,000 plans, blah blah blah. I wake up at like, I don't know, 7 o'clock, and I just looked at my husband. I was like, I think I peed in bed. He looked at me. He's like, no, your water broke.
Well,
Uh,
he knew.
he knew. He also has sisters of his own, much older, so they've been through it for him
Okay.
to know. Yeah, then we just rushed to the hospital. But I remember passing a Dunkin' Donuts, and I was like, "You need to get me something to eat. They're not going to give me anything to eat as soon as I get there." And he's like, "No, you can't eat. What if they need to like provide you with medication and it makes you vomit?" As soon as I get to the hospital, I didn't get to eat a full meal until 5 days later because I had preeclampsia.
Oh
So
wow.
I
Okay.
was on just IV for 5 days post labor. So I remember till this day I'm looking at him like, you made me starve for 5 days because all I wanted was one meal.
If you don't mind me asking, what's preeclampsia?
A preeclampsia, yeah. So preeclampsia is a type of condition. Basically, what specifically happened to me is my oxygen level dropped, and I was unable to push out my baby naturally. So I ended up getting a C-section, but my oxygen level dropped, his dropped, and my blood pressure spiked.
Okay.
And it happens a lot with women who have high blood pressure, especially during pregnancy. And it's basically, it puts your pregnancy at a very high risk.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So some of my girlfriends also who experienced preeclampsia, some were able to push out their baby naturally, and others had to get a C-section because it was the more the baby was, the longer the baby was staying inside of the mom, the higher risk of death for the mom and the baby was becoming. So
So tell me about the blessing of when your husband was driving you to the hospital. Like you had someone with you, because now everything is about I could do it on my own. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
what would you now looking back, right? The blessing of you didn't have to drive yourself to the hospital, like someone was right there with you.
Yeah. I just try to appreciate and be present of the of what, I was given and I had the opportunities of. And having my husband there was a blessing because he was also so active throughout my pregnancy. While there are so many women out there where they don't have that partnership with someone when they are pregnant or going through something like that of their own. I mean, it definitely made things easier. I mean, my mother-in-law and my mom were also inside of the labor room. And that also helped with my stress levels, especially when my blood pressure was spiking. But yeah, I mean, when one of my girlfriends had to give birth on her own because her partner wasn't inside of the room, because they chose not to be. So hearing that side, it's just like, but you know what? She's so resilient and she's able to take care of her children just fine. And not a day goes by where her children think twice about, I have a mom, but where is my dad? You know,
Wow. Yeah, my brother, he had his wife had a child during COVID, and he wasn't allowed in the hospital.
he wasn't allowed.
He wasn't
Yeah,
allowed. When the baby came out, he could come in real quick and hold the baby, but it wasn't like the way it normally is. It was like maybe for like maybe 1 minute, and then he had to go do several tests. He had to get tested, I think, 3 times
yeah,
to make sure he doesn't have COVID.
yeah.
And then he had to leave. And then I think they sent the baby home really, really quick. They were trying to get them and the baby out of the hospital because they don't,
Yep.
everything's going up. So did your husband cut the umbilical cord?
No,
No.
No, well, they knocked me out during my C-section.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when, yeah, they knocked me
Oh, that's
out.
true. Okay. Okay.
And then and they have this like blue film or something over you. I wake up and the first thing my husband says, "Yo, we got a kid," and I'm like, "Oh, nice." And then he goes, "Yo, there's blood everywhere on this floor." That's what I remember him saying to me as soon as I woke up. I'm like, "What?" And then I heard a baby crying, but like, no, there wasn't anything like it was such a it. I just remember being like put on the OR bed and being rushed to the OR and someone yelling to my husband like, "You got to get changed," because this was pre-pandemic, and
Okay.
my mom just squeezing my hand and going like, "Okay, you've got this." I was like, I might die, and I don't know what happened after that. And then
You just like going through the
I just
motion
woke up. Yeah,
and
so
heavily on medication, right?
oh, when those anesthetic drugs, when they knock you out, they knock you out.
Wow. Thank God you wasn't awake during that whole.
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think they were also trying to knock me out because of just how my levels were too.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but yeah, I just remember there was a lot of people in that OR, but between nurses, different physicians, and doctors, just trying to make sure it's all good before they, not to get graphic, but split me open to take out my child.
Yeah. How did the
But
name come about? Did y'all choose together, or did he choose, you choose? Like, how did y'all come to both? This is both your first child, right?
yeah, for first child,
Okay.
we love Nora Jones, and we used to listen to Nora Jones a lot when we were dating. So, but randomly, when you talk about kids and whatnot that you want one day, he was like, "Do you want to one day, if we have a daughter, name her Nora?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty dope." And we're also Muslim, so Nora has a beautiful meaning in Arabic. So once we found out we had a boy, we kind of ignored having to plan his name because we're like, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And like that day we were in the hospital and he just brings his birth certificate and goes, "Yo, so do you want to like name him Noah?" And I'm like, "Sure, works for me. If it's not a Nora, it'll be Noah." So that's how Noah came about.
One thing I want to talk about too, right, is that you was in America when 9/11 happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is AR. It's really Abdul Rashid, right?
Oh,
So
nice.
I
Okay.
had to shorten it.
Yeah. 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 Well, I was wondering what that name stood for.
Yeah, I had to because during that time, I was into telemarketing sales.
Mm,
That was not the name to you.
mm-mm.
Did
No.
was you discriminated against after 9/11?
Um, yes. But I was 12 back then when it happened, and the day that it
Mm,
happened, we were in school, and like it was on TV. It was, and all the kids were like, "What the hell is going on?" And we thought it was a movie until we realized, oh, that happened live. Yeah, growing up in a Muslim household, 100%. My mom, who is a hijabi, the day a day or two after the attacks, she was just walking down our neighborhood, where you feel the safest, and some guy opened his car, like put down his car window and was like, "Go back to your country, you
mm.
raghead," or something like that. And she, from what she told us, she was like, I found a rock in on the floor and I threw it back at him because how dare he.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had so many aunts and my mom's friends that ended up taking off their hijab, not just in America, but also, I have family members in England. They were also being discriminated against. In school, it's funny because my Arab, like my first name is Ifat, which is an Arabic first name. So like my name being Ifat Ismail, people would make jokes about it all the time because it was like, oh look, she's not a Christine or a Jennifer.
Mm.
She's Ifat Ismail. Eva was a nickname since I was born that my parents gave to me, but just your name is also discriminated against. I mean, with your name being Abdul Rashid, especially back in the day, someone would either say butcher that name or put some sort of. But it's true, because no one again also takes the time to ask, how do you pronounce that name? I want to
Exactly.
pronounce it correctly.
Like I did in the beginning of the interview, right? I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly.
Yes,
Man,
yeah.
yeah, my name has been butchered countless of times. But when 9/11 happened, I was in high school. I was on the top floor. The first plane hit, everything rumbled. right? And then we
Oh,
look over out the window. I seen the second plane hit. And when
wow.
I seen the second plane hit, it was hell, meaning that security guards ran out, teachers ran out, no one was protecting the kids. Everyone ran out, and and then it was smoke everywhere. It was it
Chaos,
was
right?
it was no subway systems. I was in Brooklyn. I lived in the Bronx. It was just like, how am I gonna get home? And this is no technology,
Right.
remember? There's
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah. No, no, no.
there's no cell phone, no,
Oh,
everything was a map. It's like I've never walked from Brooklyn to the Bronx. But yeah, definitely, even at my job after that, definitely discriminated against. So definitely had to change up the name, and it's all good.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but other than that, so let me ask you. So you are an actress, aspiring actress, right?
Aspiring actor. One day I will say actor, actress, hopefully. But yeah, aspiring actor. I did I was part of like a youth action back when I was in high school that basically released a bunch of different skits and plays about the South Asian community, and that's where a voice in me was like, oh shoot, this is something that fires you up. And ever since, it's just performing arts has stuck with me. And yeah, and my daytime job is a producer of an advertising agency, but my other job is just trying to pursue this acting thing.
So does your job and your act, does that kind of connect? Because you do meet people, right? People that are,
Yeah.
especially in New York City, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I work in a an advertising creative firm. So there are so many folks there that, are producers, graphic designers, so many different realms of profession, but they, are musicians on the side, they freelance, they're actors on the side. So because of the fact that I work in a creative field, um, the daytime job kind of is a way to just, encourages you to embrace whatever your passion is or your side hobbies are.
Oh wow. So what is your favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie of all time. So Hollywood movie, it has to be Titanic. It was the first time that I saw what it meant for like great chemistry as a child, great what it
Yeah.
meant for like great chemistry to take place during so much chaos and tragedy.
Yeah.
I remember I would think I was like 9 or 10, finally like pressuring my mom to have me watch that movie. And I watched it. I was like, this is magnificent art. Oh my God. How are they able to still love each other and like shiver in God knows whatever studio they were in while like the ship is like just falling to the
Hmm.
pits. And then learning about James Cameron or hearing of his name because Titanic was such a huge movie back then, hearing my teachers even talk about it, I'm like, who is this director that's able to just like do something so crazy like this? So that has to be my all-time favorite. And then in Bollywood, it's called a movie called Lagan about the the British Empire kind of and how the how India fought to make sure that they received their freedom. There's a lot of other things that went into it, but that's one of my ultimate favorites.
So do you think that Rose could scoot over and let Jack on
What do you
the
mean by that?
raft in Titanic? At the ending when
Oh,
Jack and Rose, she could have moved over. She could have moved.
I mean,
Do you
yeah,
think there was enough space?
there there's always enough space when you love someone. You make
But,
space for them. Now, is that
but
going to cause high ratings? No. If you end up throwing your partner, that's what causes, that's what impacts the ratings. I mean, look, the writers did a phenomenal job. Again, like it's my ultimate favorite movie ever because as a child I understood what it meant to create art. But yeah, I
yeah.
see all these memes with like they draw like
Yep.
Leo's body, right? Like they're in like some forensic file movie, and like Rose could have just, kind of slept on her side.
She
What do we
could
do? We
have.
sleep next to our partners at nighttime. We sacrifice a good space in bed so our partners are sleeping on the bed, right? So yeah.
I think
100%.
just think that was so funny that people drawing, like you said, forensic files and stuff like that. Yeah, and I was thinking, so like, you know what? Yeah, she could have scooted over. They should do a remake and make her the one doing the sacrifice. She's in the water.
I I think
Now,
I think I read somewhere they're actually trying to build a Titanic-like ship to take
I would,
sail to
yeah, I would not be riding that.
no, no, thank you. I'll read about it.
I don't want to be on Titanic too, right? In real life.
Yeah. The
So,
pandemic's Titanic too enough for me.
yeah. Oh man, can you imagine get caught out there?
No,
Another
thank
type of
you.
yeah, no, no. So, what was a? Have you ever seen a movie that was just horrible?
That remember the movie Precious?
Yeah,
The I was like, what? That to me was like, I mean, it was about what someone was going through, but I remember being like, this is pretty bad.
but the thing about Precious is that people were just like devastated, but you know, a lot of us that watched it were not surprised. We have friends that have
Mm,
been through stuff like that. And that was I grew up in Brooklyn, New York during the crack era. A lot of the men, not a lot, I'm sorry, a good
mhm,
amount of the men that were dating the woman, they was really into the child. You know,
mhm.
parents were selling their kids and stuff like that. So when I watched the movie Precious, that was just Harlem. That was our that type of behavior was kind of normalized, and that's why you look at people now that's grown up and you're thinking like, why the hell are you doing something crazy? Like, because they had a crazy life, you
Yeah,
know. But
yeah.
it was just, I think all the actors and actresses was just so authentic the way they was. You even had Mariah Carey not wearing makeup as a
And
therapist.
she did a phenomenal job as she was a counselor, right? She did it was so raw. And I think this is something that we were chatting about a couple of days ago, is like it's so important within media and entertainment for minorities to be able to tell their story. Back in the day when Precious came out, I mean, a good portion of America was like, well, this happens. But yeah, because they don't know the stories or the lives people in their own country live. So 100% what was normal to you is not normal to the next person, but that
Yeah.
only amplifies the reason why Black writers, Black actors, South Asian writers, actors, producers, Asian, like any type of marginalized community, we need to tell our stories, and it's important for it to come out of through our writing and through our rhetoric, instead of pitching the idea to someone who hasn't lived through that to be able to showcase that.
Absolutely. One movie that came out, you seen Squid Games, right? TV show?
Crazy, yes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The reason why Squid Games was so successful is not just that. First of all, they're Asian, right? So for
Hmm.
an all Asian
Asian cast.
cast to be successful in America is huge. Is huge, and there's no Jackie Chan fighting. I'm too much. It's just
No.
pure acting craziness,
Yeah.
right? The reason why it was so successful is because they focused on the language. They have language almost in every country, everywhere, right? But the way the language was is that no matter what language they were speaking, when they did the voiceover, it still matched like the lips with the words,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Sometimes you forget
Interesting.
that they're speaking a different language, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I watched Squid Game in Korean, but I just read the subtitles, and a lot of my friends were, and like what I was reading online was that the way the dialogue is in Korean, it's the English subtitles don't even do it justice, because
Mm,
there's just like different types of word switch and context that just sounds so much stronger and like hits so much harder in
mm.
Korean. But yeah, I mean, and all of those actors, they're so successful in South Korea. But it's interesting because like now they are in this Hollywood American market, And for it's so funny because some of their interviews are just like, yeah, well, it seems very normal for them to get interviewed and whatnot, but it just goes to show how much of an impact American cinema and Hollywood itself of an influence it has within us as Americans, when there's such a variety of like art out there if we just watch movies outside of what Hollywood kind of showcases.
Yeah, there's a lot of independent films that's really good, better than the Hollywood films, right? A lot of indie
Mhm.
films, and yeah, I just saw the movie Matrix 4. Oh my god,
I haven't watched it. How was it?
okay, I'm gonna leave it. I don't want to spoil it from you, but go on Google and read the reviews.
Hmm.
I think it has 2.5 out of
What?
14,000 reviews. Yeah, yeah, just
Was it hyped up too much?
the lack of action.
Oh,
The lack of action. Yeah. So, but I want you to enjoy it. But I guarantee you're gonna fast forward it. You know. Yeah,
okay.
and I love Matrix.
Yeah. I mean, any type of like action thriller, psychological action type of movie is always exciting to watch, especially when you have a phenomenal actor like Keanu Reeves being the lead. But that's so funny. That's so disappointing to hear because I'm looking forward to watching it.
I think what's really disappointing is that after John Wick and all those, he really did real training, right,
Yes,
with the
yeah.
firearms. So I think that was the most disappointing, is that when he did Matrix 1, 2, and 3, he didn't have those type of skills in real life. Now
Hmm.
now during Matrix 4, he has those skills, and why it wasn't utilized. So it's kind of crazy, and but who would you like to work with? Some of the actors or actresses you believe you would like to work with?
Um, my dream would be to one day work with Mindy Kaling. I feel like she is a top South Asian woman in the industry that's able to write stories and um, cast actors that are part of the South Asian community. Riz Ahmed is also a phenomenal actor that I would love to learn and just be embraced with his artistic value. It's so, especially because he's a Muslim actor, and to be able to just showcase, you don't have to look a specific way to be able to act and tell a story. That's so important because he's played such great roles and he's killed it. Um, and also Purna Jagannathan, who is the mom in Never Have I Ever. She's been around for so many years within the industry, and she's also a South Asian woman. And it's just, as a South Asian, it creates huge pride for me to be able to see my community really take ownership um, within Hollywood, because again, we have a lot of stories and we should be able to showcase them authentically.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with excuse me, the whole thing with I guess like the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff like that. Um, I disagree with the movement, and
How come?
so forth. Um, well, the idea of it is great, right? Black Lives Matter. The idea of it is great. Um, but there's so many people that died. Okay, so you heard about the
Yeah.
fire in the Bronx?
Which one?
19 people that died, I think
Oh, the
last week.
fire. I
Yeah, the
heard
fire.
you said fight. I was like,
No,
what?
no, no, fire,
No, no,
fire.
fire. Yeah, it's terrible. And the building had over 170 violations.
Did Did you hear Black Lives Matter? Did you see them on the news? Did you hear them? It came out. Any no? What about other black people that get shot, killed, stabbed, shot? Do you see any of them ever? I mean, not just here, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about anywhere in the country. Do you see them anywhere around? Do you? The only time you hear about Black Lives Matter is when there's a check to be collected, when a
Oh,
cop does something and they're able to collect. So that's why I'm really against Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter only doesn't matter when a black is killing another black, you know. And I'm black, Hispanic, but I'm black, and I definitely disagree with it. And their ideology, you know, their thought process, what they're trying to pursue homosexuality um, amongst the black community. That's not the key. You can't, you know, that's not the key. That's not the way it should be. And so, and the people that originally started, they're gone. You know, bought. I mean, no one's holding them accountable. They bought houses, they bought real millions of dollars, and they bought homes around white people. If you think about, look at all the people that are screaming out that white people are bad and evil and mean. They're married to white people. They don't date black people themselves. So, you know, there's real problems, real issues that's going on, you know. And I feel like that no one's really helping those problems, those issues. 19 people died in the Bronx,
Yeah.
you know, in one fire. And those are most of the buildings, you know, they're African. And now people did come out to help. A lot of some of the celebrity people, but you don't see Black Lives Matter. It's like they disappear, you know. But the whole point of me bringing them up is that I think after that movement came out, people were more acceptable to other cultures, even in movies.
Yeah.
Other cultures, people started watching a lot of the movies and so forth. A few zombie movies that came out from Asians and so forth. People promoting that more than American movies. So I believe that it's really a good time now to be from a different culture, and you probably get a lot more notice than before. You know.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, any type of movement too, it's an opportunity to raise awareness. So, you know, the type of details you were giving me about BLM, I mean, I would have to read up on it and whatnot, but it definitely, that movement did allow a lot of awareness, and like awareness that was forced into the minds of just like average people like you and I, to be like, I need to read up on this, and I need to, you know, like read about what's shifting in society. So just it's just important to have that awareness too, because again, what we grew up with is not what our reality really is.
Yeah, and I think the past 4 years, maybe three, yeah, past 3 to 4 years, a lot of people have been disagreeing with each other regarding political wise. You know,
Yeah.
everyone's on different sides and everyone's switching sides and coming back. But I think one thing we can all agree with: everyone's paying attention, right?
Yeah, everyone is.
Every-
Everyone is. Every single sentence you are saying, someone is paying attention to it and is
Someone's paying
ready
attention.
to decipher it.
It,
You know that, I mean, it'll be taken out of context.
yeah, a lot of even some of the stuff I say, that's why I've learned that this is whatever my principles are. I'm gonna stand on it from the beginning. And
Yeah.
you know what? I don't fit everywhere, and that's fine, you know. But yeah, yeah, I think everyone's definitely paying attention. You know, how do you feel about cancel culture?
I so I'll be honest, I still don't understand what that means. For me to, when I hear about it, I'm like, why do we create these terms and what do they mean? Every other, I mean, my Gen Z nieces and nephews now tell me about different terms because I'm just so like, what? I just watch MSNBC or CNN and like, or just hear about news from my husband. We're like, okay, cool. But like, what does that even, please elaborate on that because I do not.
Yeah, basically cancel culture is just a group of different people that come together and decided that you should be banned from whatever else you're doing. If you're on YouTube, they feel like, you know, this could be a group of white people, group of black people, group of
Mhm.
homosexuality, group of whoever. You know, they just come together and say, hey, listen, you should not have a platform to speak on because I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. So you know what? You need to be taken down. You need to be fired from your job. You know, you need to be that's basically what the cancel culture is, just to cancel whatever you're doing because you hurt my feelings.
I'm
Even though I never
canceling
met
them
you
out of my
before.
brain. Yeah, no, but I'm canceling that out of my brain because those people are just receiving way too much of a platform to say anything to. How are we supposed to grow as a society and build a human community, regardless of the community you come from, I come from? How are we supposed to grow and bring up each other and honor each other if we're already from the beginning like, you said you like bananas, I hate bananas, so no, you can't, like, don't talk to me anymore, you need to be canceled? That's just wrong.
You know, the thing about the internet is that, like, if someone's watching this interview and they don't like it, you know, they don't have, like, it's not mandatory. You know,
No, it's not.
it's not mandated, right?
No, right. Yeah, I don't have time to mandate anything to you if you don't like the interview. Like,
So what do you feel like what is something that you want to do this year to you feel that will help you continue to pursue your acting career? Like what is it something you think you need to do, you need to work with, someone you need to meet, you know?
yeah, I mean, everything that I read about talks about networking, market yourself, network. For the past several years, I've been taking acting classes through different acting institutions. So just building up on my craft, really staying focused to that, and just being authentic to myself to help uh, build the character and bring the character to life is really important to me. Definitely auditioning, because you have to continue an audition to get exposed to different areas of the business. But I would like to just make sure I continue and focus on marketing my skills and just building on my craft. That's so important, so that's definitely a huge goal of mine. And throughout all of that, making sure I'm you know being a healthy human being on the inside, and just making sure I'm open to people's feedback.
Do you do any of those TikTok dances and, you know, jumping around and
No, I respect people. I admire those who are able to just do that. My nieces have TikToks, and they TikTok, and they love using it, and they dance and whatnot. And even like people that have become wealthy by just doing these dances, and having endorsement deals and whatnot. I think that's such a great deal. But you know, and there are a lot of aspiring actors out there that use TikTok. I'm just not sure if that's the angle that I'm comfortable with to use. Um, Maybe one day, but right now I don't see myself dancing on TikTok.
dancing on top of the table or, you
I
know?
don't no, no. And it's funny because uh, a nephew of mine the other day was like, "You want to be on camera? You have to like take off your clothes if you're on camera." I'm like, "No, that's not what it means to act. Sure, you will have opportunities." And he's about to be 6, so he's just speaking his mind. He's just seeing
I know.
what is out there. And then I was like, wow, my nephew thinks that I'm aspiring to do this, to dance on top of tables, like without clothes on. I'm like, no, that's not. There's an art form behind it. So yeah, whether you do Instagram reels, TikTok videos, or whatever, just stay true to your art and your craft.
That's so funny. So we're in 2022, right?
Hmm.
What can people expect from you?
Um, it's a very interesting question. Expect more of me. I, I keep going back to this, but within the South Asian community, some aspects of the community, it's still taboo to be on camera, to to do anything that you're passionate about as a singer, a dancer, an actor. And I am one of those people within the community, and I really strongly want to change that. It should be normal for you to be able to see a South Asian on TV. It should be normal and okay for you to be like, oh, you know what? That's a Bangladeshi woman that's following her passion and is building on her craft. So, but I'm not famous or well known or anything, but for my friends and family, for what they can expect from me is just someone who's going to be able to, fulfill this journey that I've decided to place myself in, because I want our stories to be told.
Yeah, and I think putting yourself out there, it helps people, because a lot of even, black people, they feel, even with the Asian culture, feel like, oh, y'all think y'all better than us. No, they just,
No.
I do understand that a lot of your culture just don't want the drama, don't want problems, just don't want any
Yeah.
problems. But what happens is that, like, by you showing yourself on the internet, people are able to understand, oh wow, you know what? She's just like us. They
Yeah.
start to understand, and then um people will start to watch your content, but you got to turn the camera on, right?
Yeah. You got to turn the camera on, whether you want to dance on top of the table or not. Um, yeah. Yeah. It's, I think first, as just a human, our initial reaction when we meet someone who looks different than us or has lived a different life than us, we go into that automatic uh, um, thing where we just start judging them, right? Based on who we think they are, based on what we think they wanna do or showcase into the world. But if we were to just let that ego side of us go and just sit with someone, just like how you and I have and learn to get to know each other, coming from two different communities and two different childhood. At the end of the day, we're still very much alike. We're New Yorkers just trying to get through this pandemic. You've talked about your uh, the depression. I've talked about mine. At the end of the day, we're so similar. Now, if we need to be each other's allies in order to bring each other up, and a lot of the times I feel like people forget that because they're just so busy judging each other.
Yeah, and during the pandemic at the beginning, people was fighting over toilet tissue. That's crazy how it shows you people didn't they got like 12 packs of toilet tissue.
I went to
Look,
Costco yesterday and I was like, I really hope I find toilet paper because I need toilet paper for my house. Because I was like, why were they going crazy over toilet paper in the beginning?
I gave my cousin toilet tissue, like 5 big ones of toilet tissue last year, and as a birthday gift. And it's crazy how I did that as a joke, and he was so appreciative. Like, not even.
Yeah, I would be too. You can barely find it anywhere. Bleach is still available, but not toilet paper.
I was just, but I didn't understand the connection between. Okay, but anyway, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you want people to support you in 2022?
Just by supporting me in whatever roles hopefully I nail and whatever comes out within whatever plays I'm in, and just support me by honestly just being human with each other, because I truly, like, throughout my entire journey of doing this, the more I learn about people, about different professions within the entertainment business and get to learn about their lives, it just goes back to the fact that we're all human, you know and in order to just support one another, just learn about each other. um if you see me on the street, say hi. You don't have to be shy. Like, I have, like, I know so many people through Instagram within the industry, and whenever we see each other at a coffee shop, we'll just like wave at each other, but it's like we have paragraphs of conversations on Instagram. Why are we just waving at each other? So things like that, just be real. The pandemic, man, I don't, I'm trying to be hopeful about it, but like, it's gonna be here for a while. So what do we need to do? We need to live our best lives and just be our authentic selves to one another and just embrace that. So
Yeah, it's always gonna be something else and then something else. But I mean, people are concerned with the pandemic, which is understandable. But the crime is, I'm like, what are the chances if I go in the subway? What are the chances of, am I gonna catch Omicron or am I gonna, get killed? I'm more fearful of the violence that's happening.
yeah,
But yeah, we can't carry nothing. It's just crazy. But anyway, listen, Eva Ishmael, right?
yeah,
Okay. I,
Ismail, Ismail,
Ismail, right?
yeah.
Okay. So listen, I do appreciate your time, you know, and anything you need, you please just let me know, okay?
Thank you so much. This conversation was great. Thank you so much for having me. Best of luck to you.